Believe it or not, once upon a time, there was only one Kingdom Hearts game. A fun combo of Final Fantasy RPG tropes and mechanics merged with real-time hack-and-slash combat. With Disney characters.
Let's go get him! Goofy!
Which is why as a kid it took me off guard that the game included a rather melancholic and at times eerie story for the subject matter about a young lad trying to find his friends in faraway worlds and ultimately not really succeeding. Kingdom Hearts, despite being a game full of goofy moments where you hang out with Donald Duck, have heartwarming adventures where you make friends with classic Disney characters and trade banter with fake Danny DeVito, is a title that ends with the protagonist Sora descending into this weird hellscape. He ends up in this distorted reality where ultimately things conclude on a kind of bittersweet note. Our hero's goals unfulfilled. Now, as an adult, it's easy to look back and laugh at Kingdom Hearts for its everything, but when I was young, damn, this was some serious shit, and the ending left me with a bit of a lump in my stomach. Maybe these people just can't be together, you know, it's upsetting when you're 9. So the wait for the sequel began, and this would turn out to be a real big wait, especially if you lived in Europe. So years go by, and then sitting around minding my own business, I hear this coming from the telly. Is that epic bop from Kingdom Hearts? What's this, Kingdom Hearts on Game Boy? What? At first, seeing the advert for Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories, it looked to me like some kind of weird pixel remake of Kingdom Hearts, but in fact it was a follow-up to the story of the original. What was interesting about it though is that it wasn't really a proper return for the characters or to the world of the first game. Instead, it's this uncanny kind of messed up journey where Sora and his friends get drained of their souls, their memories wiped and replaced. Essentially by the end, they get erased from the world as if they never existed. You meet characters from the original, but it's not really them, they're memories masquerading as people, and by the end of the game, Sora's left as this weird husk put in cold storage. Even more detached and removed from the world than he was at the end of KH1. This just kind of made the wait for the true sequel even more intense. You know, how are we going to come back from the ending of this?
Over the past 2 years or so, we've received roughly 9 billion emails asking us when Kingdom Hearts 2 was coming out.
And our answer, finally, is here.
So finally, 4 years removed from the original title's launch, I got to boot up Kingdom Hearts 2 on my PS2. And so begins a magical few hours. One of the main things that added so much class to Kingdom Hearts was Yoko Shimomura's soundtrack. It's so good and respectable that it often seems to be at odds with the at times ridiculous things going on in the story, but there's no denying it's one of the series' greatest assets. The original game had an amazingly memorable title screen, and I'll never forget booting up the second game and hearing the same theme fade slowly in, now with string-based accompaniment. It's a slower, more poignant rendition of the first game's title screen. Morose and wistful, after waiting so long, nothing felt more appropriate and nothing had me more excited to continue the journey than this. And of course the opening movie Sanctuary just built that hype up even further. Nothing says production value more than getting a recap of the last 2 games in $1 million CGI square-enix vision. They did a great job at condensing the events of the previous 2 titles into this dynamic and stylish music video. And then the game begins, and it's not what I assume most people expected. Kingdom Hearts 2 commences with you playing as a kid named Roxas hanging out with his friends, a character teased briefly at the very end of Chain of Memories. It's the last few days of their summer vacation, the twilight of their summer vacation you might say. Appropriately, they live in Twilight Town, which players of Chain of Memories will recognize as a mysterious location visited near the end of the game. You take control of this Roxas guy and spend the beginning of the game basically living out his life, taking on rival gangs, earning money in part-time jobs, completing school projects, and taking part in local sporting events. Where could Sora be? Roxas doesn't seem all there. He's, really quiet and reserved. He lives a very average life that slowly but surely begins to unravel. Sometimes he can randomly wield the Keyblade, Sora's weapon, to fight monsters that start appearing. He has dreams and flashbacks of the previous games every night. Weird men in black robes show up and mess with him, including Axel, a boss from Chain of Memories. And we slowly see Diz appear, a mysterious character monitoring Roxas who also made his first appearance in the GBA game. And throughout these events you're left wondering, where is Kingdom Hearts 2 at? The game I just bought and have been waiting for many, many years?
Gotcha!
For the first few hours, we don't see Sora and his gang outside of distorted flashbacks. Heck, for the Final Fantasy Disney crossover game, we don't see any Disney characters outside of Roxas's dreams either. It's the craziest bait and switch. We got the sequel, but everything is still being kept at arm's length. What's going on? Where's the continuation of the journey I've been waiting for? This prologue is split into 6 days. On the first day, Roxas gets the Keyblade after being attacked by some weird creatures, but nobody else notices what's going on. You spend the second day saving money to go to the beach, but oops, some weirdo shows up and steals the cash. On the third day, more spooky monsters show up, so you try taking them out only to get warped into the weird tutorial world from KH1. You know, the void with all the glass paneling where you get to pick what stats you want to emphasize. Of course, my stat of choice is going to be attack, because I'm a hack and slash player. Already we're seeing the world of Kingdom Hearts seep in weird ways into this kid's life. This stuff is slow paced, but throughout it you grow to see that Roxas and his friends really have a bond.
One more treasure for us to share.
Even on day 3, when one of them gets mad at him for his bullshit, you know, Roxas acting all weird and stuff. On the 4th day, after participating in this dueling tournament, the guy gets over it and they all share a touching moment. It's not exactly subtle at this point that things aren't right though, and we're heading for tragedy, especially when time stops and Firefella shows up to fight earlier. In between every day, there's flashbacks to KH1. In between days 4 and 5, we even get an update on what one of Sora's old friends is doing, even if the events of Chain of Memories mean she can't remember who Sora even was. All of this seems to be leading up to the return of Sora proper, and after day 5 is spent wandering around town examining urban legends, the player is probably at breaking point for finding out where Sora is. Day 6 is where everything is laid to bed as Roxas's reality breaks down completely. He heads into a mansion foreshadowed at the start, and in fact all the way back in Chain of Memories, where he discovers that the reality he was living in was some kind of computer construct. He finds out that he's basically a lost part of Sora's soul that got separated and became its own person, and he's been put on hold in this virtual world until he can be used to restore Sora. His whole life is a lie. We then get another fight with Axel where the mood has completely changed. Axel actually did know Roxas in the real world and was his best friend, but at this stage both of them have realized there's probably no going back to those days. And finally, after all this time, we get a glimpse of our protagonist.
Sora. You're lucky. Looks like my summer vacation is over.
Roxas joins with Sora, and we finally get our title. We finally get our sequel.
Donald! Goofy!
Yeah, we did it. After 4 years and an extra 3 hours of titillating waiting, we're finally back in the real world with Sora, Donald, and Goofy ready for adventure again. We're finally, properly, actually back. What can I say? It was hard not to be pumped at this moment. If you've ever been confused looking in over at the Kingdom Hearts series from afar, let's just say this is when the franchise was at its best. Even the party screen is back. I was excited just to see a menu again we haven't seen since Kingdom Hearts 1. It's hard to beat a comeback like this. It's crazy though, because this is like one of the most bittersweet moments in game's history. You have to live out this other character's tragedy before getting your character back, and that's a kind of sick, nasty move. The change is really driven home by just how fluid Sora controls. Roxas starts out kinda sluggish with his crappy bat, slow and not that nimble. But by the time you've merged and are complete with Sora, the game has eased you back into the fluid and frantic combat of the Keyblade. Sora has this great sense of aerial momentum in KH2. He swings the Keyblade and moves swifter and easier. You're just there now cutting enemies like butter. You get the sense that you've now become a complete character. It truly feels like a return, one of the greatest build-ups and payoffs in gaming. It's all just done so well. The beautiful, sad music that brings Roxas's tale to a crescendo that then gives way to the uplifting, peppy beat of Sora reawakening and seeing his friends, and us finally getting Kingdom Hearts 2. It's great. It contextualizes the wait and the anticipation for the sequel Kingdom Hearts 2 within the game itself. essentially making you wait for the game to be finished, built, and be put together within the opening as Sora is being constructed throughout this prologue. I think it's pretty clever. I mean, I'm about to go out on a bit of a limb here, but you spend the opening doing some pretty ordinary everyday shit. Grinding for part-time money, doing school assignments or whatever. The kind of mundane shit you were probably doing while waiting for Kingdom Hearts 2 to come out. I know this kind of speculation is getting dangerously close to it's bad on purpose territory, but subversion is fine as long as there's payoff, and the return of Sora at the end of this opening isn't all you get. This Roxas segment is a nice little self-contained story that continues to wrap up in its bittersweet way even after Sora's awakening. In the real Twilight Town, Sora meets the counterparts of Roxas's friends from the fake reality, and even though they don't know him, and he doesn't know them, there's a weird lingering feeling that they do.
We came to see you off. It just seemed like something we ought to do.
Somehow, something of what Roxas experienced in his simulated reality seems to have lingered in the real one. And as Sora leaves Twilight Town, now a complete individual again, and Kingdom Hearts 2 begins properly, you get this nice little addendum to Roxas's tragic story that leaves you with the thought that even if ever so slightly, his presence lingered. He wasn't just nobody. And what a ride Kingdom Hearts 2 is from that point on. Not only has there been a time gap in release years for the game, but there's also been a time gap in the universe of the game.
You will need more suitable traveling clothes. Those look a bit too small for you.
Gosh, Sora, you sure are growing fast.
So when Sora reunites with the characters we met in the first title here again, it's been ages since we've seen them, and it's been ages since Sora has seen them. It's a reunion for everybody. All your buds are back, and you meet them again after so long, and it's such a treat. Sora is essentially still on the same quest as the first game, and without spoiling anything, let me just say that the payoff at the end of KH2's story completes the arc of these first 3 games perfectly. It's just as satisfying, if not more satisfying, as the payoff for getting to start this game's adventure and take control of Sora again after so long that I just explained to you. If you started the series at Kingdom Hearts 2, this opening, yeah, might come across as some lame, slow tutorial. And I can understand why. I mean, heck, even if you play the games for the first time now, all in order back to back, I doubt you'll really get that same satisfaction I did after waiting so long for this game to release. But at the time, this opening was the perfect starter course for what would be one of the greatest and most complete hack-and-slash RPGs of all time. A perfect ease back in from the gloom and doom of the ending of KH1 and downward spiral of events in Chain of Memories. Starting with a huge bang here I don't think would have made much sense, although I'm not saying slow starts can't be done wrong in this series. But whether they nail a scene like this through explosions or quiet contemplation, just know that Kingdom Hearts is quite capable of doing great things when they're not completely clouded by its convolution. I'll admit I did skip some of the intricacies of like the plot details going on in this opening, but I feel like these raw emotions is all you really need to know about. They really get to the heart of what makes this game's story great. It's results like the conclusion of this prologue, no matter how they go about getting to them, that I want to see with this franchise going forward. Hey everybody, did you enjoy this video? Would you like to see me cover this whole franchise and get into the nitty-gritty of like the only finished hack-and-slash games in a series ever made? Or did this video convince you of the opposite of that? Well, if you do, support the cause on my Patreon, where we have a goal that, if reached, will allow me to dedicate the time I need to doing such a thing. Originally, I actually had a section in this video regarding some of the gameplay in Chain of Memories, which can be kind of a contentious subject, but I cut it since it didn't really fit in. Maybe we could get to that someday. In the meantime, big thanks to my top backers you're seeing now, and catch you next time.